Welcome to this week's episode of the Declutter 360 podcast. I'm Lauren Diekman, a certified home organizer and mindset coach who's created this space that is dedicated to helping you unlock your potential to live an organized life once and for all. Are you ready to get organized from all angles? Let's dive in. Hey, thanks for joining me on another episode of Declutter 360. I'm Lauren, and today we're going to be talking about a topic that is certainly relevant in my house. And if you have kids, it's going to be relevant in your house as well. But maybe even if you don't have kids, find some little juicy nuggets to help you out here in this episode. So stick with me. This is going to be a quick one, but I want to share with you a little bit today about helping your kids get organized. Now, before I really kind of dive into some of these thoughts that I have on this subject, there's something that I feel like I really need to share with you. And that is the idea that when you're working with kiddos, I think one of the most important things to keep in mind in establishing systems for them is that it is okay to scrap something even after you've started it. It's okay to wave the white flag and say, I thought this was a great idea and would totally help my kiddos, but clearly it is not working. I want you to be okay with trying something and be open-minded enough to know that it might not work, and it's okay. All right, because here's the thing, when we're working with kids, especially if you have multiple kids, what works for you or what makes sense to you may not be as effective for your child. And what works really well for one of your children in helping them, create systems to help them stay organized, to support their organization, right? Help them learn responsibility for staying organized and things like that. What works really well for one of your children may not work for another child. And so one thing that I see often with my clients is trying to kind of pigeonhole all of their kids into one organizational system. And oftentimes it's something that just really makes sense to the parent. Okay, but we have to really recognize and lean into the fact that our children are just as unique and unique individuals as we are as adults. And so their organizational systems, the systems that we set up to support them, are going to need to also be unique. Now, will there be houses where one organizational system is going to work effectively across the board for everyone? Sure. And my goodness, wouldn't it be nice to live in one of those houses? I don't live in one of those houses. Everybody in my house has their own organizational systems. And you know what? It was the day I stopped fighting that. Stopped fighting the fact that the way my brain worked and the organizational systems that worked for me weren't necessarily working for my kiddos. When I stopped fighting that and accepted that and was open to stopping and starting something else and trying something new and then trying something new again and then trying something new again and just continuing to try new things and tweak things and ask for feedback from my kids. What's working well for you here? What's not working well for you here? What feels good about this? What doesn't feel good about this? And obviously, depending on the ages of your kids, you're going to be looking for different levels of input from them, right? And your questions are going to need to be age appropriate and all of that. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But ultimately, there are huge benefits to, stopping and taking the time to establish organizational systems with your children. Okay, when you teach your child how to stay organized from an early age, it helps them develop that responsibility. It helps them develop their sense of time, their time management. It helps them develop decision-making skills, right? We talk about the decision-making process in organization and in decluttering all the time. it's perfectly okay to introduce that to your kids from a really early age. Doesn't mean it's going to look the same as it does for you now, or, your early elementary kiddo and your high schooler aren't going to need different things, right? Again, it's that unique, individualized approach we need to take. But all of these things, the decision making, the time management, the responsibility, it all kind of comes together when we start at an early age. And amazingly, just like getting organized and decluttering can help reduce stress in adults, it does the same thing for our kids, right? In a variety of ways. In addition to that, establishing organizational systems with your kids and, fostering all those great things that come from it helps them to build independence. Okay, when these kids know how to organize their own spaces, when they can reset their own spaces, it empowers them to be more independent and confident in managing their belongings, in making decisions about what they want to be theirs and what they don't. I often hear, especially from my younger one, who has always, for the longest time, been a kiddo who wants to keep everything, every piece of paper that he's doodled on, every project that has come home from school, every math worksheet. Once we found an organizational system that worked pretty well for him, he started being able to make more decisions about, like, well, I guess I don't need to keep this. I don't really want to keep this. And he would say, I don't need to keep this because I don't want to have to find a home for it. Or I don't have a home for it. I don't want to make a new home for it. Like, well, but if you really want to keep it, we can do that together, and then he was able to make that choice of, okay, yeah, let's make a home for this category of things. Or, you know what? No, it's okay. I really don't need to keep every single math worksheet that comes home, that kind of thing. And having that independence fostered so early and that confidence and being able to manage their belongings can really carry over into other areas of their lives, like school, social activities, social relationships, things like that. And so you can start in really age appropriate ways with your kiddos. So maybe if you have, some toddlers, preschoolers, you want to really keep it very simple, keep it very visual. Okay, you can label your bins and your baskets. If this toddler and preschool age, pictures are a great way to label things because they can match up a picture or understand that, this picture of a ball, this particular bin is where all my balls go, or is where all of my Duplo blocks go, or all my Magnetiles go here because I see the picture on that bin, right? It makes it really easy for them. And then you can even turn, tidying up into a game. Let's put all the toys back in their home. You can sing a song, do all the different things that feel good at this age group to really make it age appropriate. Okay, when you get a little bit older with your elementary school kids, organizing can still be fun and it should still be fun. But this is where we start to really teach them systems and look for ways to make them unique and individualized for that child's needs. Okay, color coding can come into play. Even for early readers, you can start with labeling with text so that they can see that, but using bins for their toys, for their clothes, for school supplies, art supplies, crafting items, anything like that, being able to use labels, giving their items a home, and then encouraging them to independently put their things back after, reminding them that everything has a place or everything has a home, and then allowing them, you know, with whatever feels most age appropriate to you, whatever amount of help or assistance feels appropriate to you for your child's unique needs at that elementary age, being able to give them that assistance or backing off from that assistance a little bit and allowing them to be a little bit more responsible and independent. When you get a little bit older into your tweens and teens, organization is really starting to get systematic. And this is where we need to be really respectful of their individual desires and needs, right? Helping them to make decisions about how their space is arranged whether it's their bedroom, a study area, their closet, maybe if they're a driver, how they're keeping their car organized. But the key is giving them ownership and responsibility. If they're the ones helping to create the system, they are so much more likely to maintain it than if you are just handing over a system and saying, this is what you have to do. If you're handing out that ultimatum, that can be a little bit tricky at this age. So it's absolutely crucial to give them ownership and responsibility in creating the systems so that they can maintain it more successfully. Of course, making organizing fun for kids is a really great way to help get rid of some of that frustration or some of the boredom, even that, because it can be tedious to clean up your things. But when we help them with reminders and with cues, that can help turn organizing into a less stressful activity and even make it a little bit more fun. You can even issue a challenge for your kids, set a timer, make it a race, see how many toys they can put away before the timer runs out, or, time them. And then the next time they're cleaning up their toys, can they beat yesterday's time or whatever it may be? Using rewards and positive reinforcement is another really great way to connect with your kids and help to motivate them to stay organized. Maybe they get a little bit of extra screen time for independently getting everything returned to its home without being asked, or for keeping their spaces tidy over a specific period of time. Any of those different ways that you can make it a little bit more enjoyable. There's even apps and, oh my gosh, so many different fun things. I don't have a lot of experience with many of the apps, but one that I've heard many other professional organizers talk about is the June app, Joon. So definitely take a look at that if you feel like a digital motivator would be something that your kids, it would be a highly motivating activity for your kiddos. But I really do believe that the key to organizing for our kids outside of the systems is establishing routines. Okay, setting regular cleanup times, allowing there to be routines in chores and in how they keep their items organized and getting items back to their homes, helping them see that these routines make life easier for them, make life simpler for them, that when they are keeping their items organized, that their life is easier. It's easier to find their things, whether it's their clothes, their shoes, their toys, their school items, whatever it may be. They're trying to get ready for school in the morning. Well, because they took that time and they have that routine the night before to get their backpack all packed up, their lunch stuff all ready to go into the back or into the lunch bag in the morning, everything is all set. They can see the benefits of these routines, allowing them maybe to sleep a little bit later because they're not, running around, or not to feel frazzled and frustrated and overwhelmed in the mornings because they know that everything's going to go smoothly because of the time they've spent on these routines. And when we create these simple, consistent routines and systems by using labels, using bins, using baskets, creating homes and systems for their things, all those kinds of cues can really be helpful for our kids. And so I just wanted to share some of these ideas and ways of thinking with you a little bit. If you are struggling with organization within your family, especially with your kiddos, I want to encourage you to really look at each of your kiddos as a unique individual who has different preferences and who requires different systems. Maybe their routine even needs to look a little bit different. But between the systems that you put in place with your children and the routines that you use to support those systems, I am confident that you can create an organized life for you and your children moving forward that's going to feel good, help things be simpler, and help your whole family life run a little bit more smoothly, a little bit happier, a little less stressful. And that, my friends, is what it's all about. Definitely check out show notes for ways to get in touch with me if you have any questions or comments about this week's episode. Otherwise, I'll see you back next week on the Declutter 360 podcast. Thank you for tuning into the Declutter 360 podcast today. I am so grateful that you found me and that we can partner together to help you live life organized from all angles. Whether this was your first time listening or you've heard every episode, you'll want to join my email list so you don't miss a bit of the inspiration and motivation to help you stay the course in living organized. Check the show notes for the link to join, okay? And hey, if you found this episode to be particularly helpful or inspiring, I would be so honored for you to share it on socials so we can grow the impact of these messages together. Oh, thank you so much. All right, my friend, that's all for now. Tune in next week for more on the Declutter 360 podcast.